There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am your host, Nick, as always.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, I am, of course, Nick, your host of this podcast. We talk about Rod Serling's, crazy, insane, bonkers series that was very, very influential. Of course, we are finally into the second season, which means we get the official guitar theme to the Twilight Zone that everybody knows. It goes, which was created by Fred Steiner, believe it or not, who is, if I read right, not from America, he is an American composer. Who am I thinking of?
Somebody else.
No, he died in Mexico. That's what I was reading about. He is a uncredited composer for Return of the Jedi, by the way.
Ooh.
There you go. And so anyways, we're here. We've officially entered the second season with the first episode, and as always, I introduced my host at some point in this series to talk about this Twilight Zone series with me. First, of course, is Triv from Trivial Theater, who is the wackiest loon in the books. How you doing, Triv?
Fuck, that's what he would think.
What's
I
up,
hate
Doc?
that she got that joke, by the way. I wish I had thought of that.
That was pretty good.
He said that. I was like, damn, that was a good one.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go watch Triv's newest video for Looney Tunes Back in Action. It's good stuff. So,
Thank you.
How you doing?
You know what? I escaped from Toontown and I made it back to the semi-real world to be with you crazy assholes.
I don't know how exciting that should be, but welcome back. Have you jumped over the wall like who was it?
Yosemite Sam.
Yeah, Yosemite Sam.
Yeah,
My hotcakes are burning.
Yeah, my ass is still on fire, so
My biscuits is burning.
fire in the hole. Go or green
I think that
horny
was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, actually.
sports.
And of course, the other person you hear is the mad god of the podcast, and that, of course, is Jacob from Jacob Andrews Reviews. What's up, Jacob?
I'm good, but I'm a god and I'm mad as hell today.
You can't
I
take
don't
it
know why.
anymore.
I can't take it. I'm mad as hell. But yeah, I'm good. I'm here with you fine people today to talk about the first glorious episode of season 2 because anal.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say your stop motion's looking sharp.
I know. Carrying those weird looking babies from down to be fed.
Move yourself fucking
Oof.
weird.
Yes.
Good old mad god. Phil Tippett, you're an insane person.
That's why we love you. On
Exactly.
the off chance you ever show up on this podcast.
Should have
Yeah,
taken
good
over
luck.
Jurassic World Dominion. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been anywhere.
Hell, Neil Breen should have taken over Jurassic World Dominion.
Where's Uwe Boll when we need him?
Yeah, exactly. He's busy boxing bitches.
Hell yeah, he is. What you said?
Actually, you know what
You
the-
stupid shit fuck, I box you.
That's what that movie needed. It needs some fucking Uwe Boll fucking boxing dinosaurs or some shit.
Fuck yeah. Actually, that movie exists. It's called
Or the
Iron
boxing
Sky.
dinosaurs.
No.
Iron
Is it-
Sky
oh,
2.
God.
Uwe Boll's not in it, but that's the kind of shit you get in that movie. It's giant. Part 2, space moon dinosaurs with rockets fighting people, and people like Kung Fury kicking it across the room. Yeah.
Nice. It sounds
Check
like
that out, people.
Carnosaur, Roger Corman's Carnosaur.
Oh man, I got memories of that one. No, it's better than
Oof.
Carnosaur.
Okay, good to know.
That
That's
movie,
the second-
no shit. The movie's actually, both of the Iron Sky movies, if you could put some things aside and just watch it for what it is, they're actually kind of fun.
Actually, Roger Corman. That's the second time I've heard you say Roger Corman today. By the way,
Yeah.
Yeah, in your
No, he
Looney Tunes
showed up
review.
in Back to Action or Back in Action. It was pretty awesome. I was
Yeah.
like,
He's in it?
dude, yeah.
Oh,
He's a
I didn't know
cameo, but
that. Okay.
you'll know it when you see it.
So speaking of back in action, we're talking once again, second season, first episode, which is of course King 9 Will Not Return. This is an episode that's directed by Buzz Kulik, written by Rod Serling. Once again, introduces us to the current theme of what will be the going on forward. Very famous Twilight Zone theme you hear everywhere. It premiered on
Sorry.
exactly. No, it's good stuff. Premiered on September 30th, 1960. Production code 1733639. Stars shut up Bob Cummings as Captain James Avery. Gene Lyons as a psychiatrist or gynecologist. Paul Lambert as doctor. And Gina McMahon
What are you
as
saying
nurse.
about him?
I mean, he was all the way up there trying to figure out what was wrong with Bob Cummings' character. So
Yeah, but I don't think he needs a gynecologist. That's
you
not-
don't know. It's the Twilight Zone. You don't know what they need.
in this case, I'm pretty sure I do. Just saying.
You don't know.
I'm not going to
Anyways,
argue with a woman about a gynecologist. Okay.
Dude, I've had that's all I got.
And Gina McMahon is hello nurse. So, okay, so I have to get this out of the way. This is not a fun episode to talk about. I am not looking forward to this. This episode has a lot of similarities to the season premiere or series premiere of the Twilight Zone. Where's everybody? So we'll just go with that. Yeah, I don't remember this episode at all. I remember I kind of figured out as I was going along what was going on, but what about you guys? Do you remember this episode at all? Does it tickle your fancy in any way of remembrance?
I don't remember this one at all. But so I was kind of going in, and when I watched it, I was trying to guess as I went. And it was kind of you knew it was going to go like one of two ways. So, yeah.
Yeah, no fancies tickled over here. I didn't remember anything about this one.
But his pickle was tickled.
Oh, yeah. But who was tickling it? That's the question.
Not me.
Sign road up ahead. Tickle my pickle.
Signpost up ahead, tickle my pickle. Can we put that in the lexicon for season 2? Tickle my pickle. It's not even in the show, but
I'm sure someone at some point said it or something similar. I was going to say there's a couple lexicon things in here.
Yeah. This is going to be a short episode, by the way, because this episode there is not a lot to talk about. To be fairly honest,
Really?
we might go like 20 minutes in this episode. I mean, but then again, we've gone 3 hours on certain episodes that I had to edit down to an hour and 20 minutes. So
we have said this before.
Yes. That's like saying what can possibly go wrong.
Got a bad
In
feeling
this
about
day and age, everything. Anyways, so this episode opens up with the kind of it's not new, but kind of the new way Rod Serling is going to go from here on out with his introductions. We see, of course, King 9, which is the airplane, but Jacob, have at it.
This is Africa, 1943. War spits out its violence overhead, and the sandy graveyard swallows it up. Her name is King 9. B-25 medium bomber, 12th Air Force. On a hot, still morning, she took off from Tunisia to bomb the southern tip of Italy. An errant piece of flak tore a hole in the wing tank, and, like a wounded bird, this is where she landed, not to return on this day or any other day.
All right, so we got tore a hole, we got southern tip, we got errant piece of flak tore hole. Okay, so I have to ask before we get into the actual episode, what do you guys think of this like kind of new way Rod Serling does things? I mean, this is what we're used to, the theme song, what Rod Serling is doing here. It's what makes it really interesting, even though the intro that doesn't have the floating eyeball and the doll and stuff like that isn't introduced yet. Does this make you the most nostalgic when you see Rod Serling in the theme song playing? Because it does for me, because it's like I said, it's ironic that I know like a lot of episodes from season 1, but these are the episodes that I really remember just from those kind of nostalgia pieces. But what about you guys? Do you feel the same way?
I mean, Rod Serling and Twilight Zone are kind of linked. I mean, you really can't you can't really mention one without the other. So
Well,
yeah,
no, I know.
No, I just mean that like seeing him on camera, like anytime you see anything that's parodied or talked about, you see Rod Serling with this. So to not, like, the first season, to not have him there was a little jarring at first, honestly.
Yeah, I got, like, that's what I always equated. Those were some of the things I always equated to Twilight Zone was, of course, the theme song, and seeing him, seeing a little bit of what's going on, and then panning over to him in that environment speaking. That's what I remember the beginning of Twilight Zone always being. And as we watch season 1, which that's not until I guess the last episode, and he's in the end. We didn't get that, so I've kind of gotten used to it now. But now seeing this out, it was kind of like we're watching the Twilight Zone now.
I remember
36
that.
episodes.
And the real quick kind of, I suppose it'd be a whip zoom or whip pan from the what's going on to over to the other stuff, like that was always like that was always one of those things where it always tried to catch the cut between the two. So it's kind of cool to be able to start doing that now.
There was no cut. He was out there in the desert with that fucking plane.
You think he was on top? He's probably on top of a crane, and then eventually it collapsed and fell down.
Well, they weren't in Death Valley this time. They were in Yuma, Arizona.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of the production values, I know not a lot happens in this episode, but from the get-go, that was the other thing that I went, oh, okay. They, at least with this episode, it seems as if they upped their game on the production. They got a bigger budget this season. Like, I know, once again, not a lot going on here, but it wasn't like the same set. It was actually on location. They had a plane, which we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And it just, the overall production values and the audio sounded a whole lot better.
Yep.
A whole lot, I don't want to say modern, but it's kind of, it was much crispier, or crisper. Like season 1 was kind of old sounding. This one actually sounds considerably newer compared to season 1.
Well, this is the year that James Cameron was born. So I mean, of course,
that's
this is
what happened.
Happen.
Everything got better that year. As soon as he popped out, it was like, oh, the God rays and shit came out of his mother's vagina. And it was just like the world got better from Canada.
Right. Oh, by the way, I was wrong on the composer. The guy who did the music was the guy I was talking about, but Marius Constant, who was born in Romania, is a French composer. He's the one that created the iconic theme for the Twilight Zone. So
cool.
Yeah.
Romania he was born in Romania and he's a French composer. Is Romania in France?
No, but he could have been, his parents could have been French and they were in Romania.
I was like, wait, Romania's not in France.
Well, I mean, obviously his life story begins when he was on whatever planet that was, and he came and he's like, the cone-shaped head, and he's like, I come from France, that type of thing. So
oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
He came down and then he started to compose music because he discovered the quickening and decided there can be only one.
He also really liked Reese's Pieces.
I'll keep going.
Yeah, right. But is there any interesting trivia outside of what you were talking about before, Triv? Did you find anything interesting?
So
outside of just the plane.
Well, so the plane was actually military surplus. It was purchased for $2,500. Was disassembled, transported to the desert location, and reassembled.
Can you imagine how much that plane would be worth today? And they spent $2,500 on a fucking military aircraft. What do you know how much that would be cost today?
A lot.
That would be so much money, even for a decommissioned, junked out airplane. $2,500. You couldn't get a fucking wheel for $2,500 nowadays.
No, not even remotely.
Man, that's crazy. I want to go back in time and just buy a bunch of useless shit. It'll be worth a ton now.
Oh, no doubt. Well, it's like you go on those duck tours and they have like the World War II ducks, like the aquatic
boats.
The boats that can also run on land.
Up on
yeah, like the amount of those that they buy up just for parts, because obviously stuff continues to go to hell. Like, it's amazing how many of those that they keep in any one place.
I mean, I'm sure you can get them pretty cheap when they're in season.
In duck season.
Yeah, rabbit season. He's funny. He's a
He's like-
funny guy. It's just funny guy.
I'm trying to be
Crib season.
tonight.
Ha.
Rocky.
One other piece I do have is the episode was based off the discovery of a bomber called Lady Be Good and a cruiser
Mhm.
Maine, which crash landed at night deep in the Libyan desert. They ran out of fuel after returning from a bombing mission over Italy or Naples.
And
The
the
marker-
gravesite. Oh, I'm sorry. You were about
Oh
to say.
no, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead,
no,
take
it's your
it.
I don't want to step on your toes. I thought
Oh,
maybe
for
you did get
God's
that
sake,
part.
would you take it and go with it?
Just the
Would you guys
gravesite later
settle
on.
your differences for the
Hey,
love of God?
You know what, Nick? Why don't you go play with anal?
You know why?
I don't know.
Because
That might
I
be
know.
fun right now. It's probably funner than this episode. So
Wow.
Oh,
Damn.
anyway, the grave sites you can come across later in the episode. The date of death is April 5th, 1943, and that is the date that plane disappeared.
Oh, and the eighth crewman was discovered just a
Yep.
few weeks before the episode aired, which is pretty crazy.
We apparently went to the same website.
Probably.
Your information is more detailed than mine, but I just don't think it's good in notes.
That's all right.
I had to do something to fill out my notes this week because there was very little for this episode just based on what I was commenting
well,
on.
hell, like the first act is I think only like 6 minutes long. It's really short, and then the last act is like 85 minutes long because it's way too long. But
Oh my god, it's not that bad.
no, it's no The Fever. I'll give it that much. But so to kind of jump into this story, I mean, we have a guy who we're introduced to King Nine, which I thought this was going to be like a Martian story or something like that. I didn't know what the hell, I couldn't remember what the hell it was about, but King Nine is a plane crash landed trying to go to Italy. We learned that in of course, the opening narration, and we see a man in the desert upside or on his face in the desert, passed out, wakes up, and he like in what was that first episode? Where's everybody? He just
Mhm.
kind of is looking around for his people, looking around for any signs of life, and he has no idea why he's there. He has no idea what's going on. His friends are nowhere to be found, or not his friends, but his co-pilot and his people he's been flying with. And I mean, it basically sees him talking to himself, like most people do in the desert. Apparently, that's what you do in the desert. You look for canteens and try to find, talk to yourself, just keep yourself from being insane. But like I said, it's just that's literally the most of this episode until we get to the very end, which I didn't find the ending that great. But this first act, like I said, he finds his hat on the ground. He's looking for Klein. He says Klein and I can't remember who else the other people he's looking for.
Baker,
But
Blake.
Baker, yeah. He just keeps calling out their names. He even, actually, I'll talk about it in the second act. But I guess I mean, there's not really much to talk about. He just literally talks to himself. He goes into his plane. He hears some static. He tries to talk to the static in the headset. And like I said, this is when we get one of probably my favorite, or one of the first lexicon words, which is "you stupid frog cowboy." He calls Klein. But I don't know. I mean, it's just, that's all it really is. It's just him searching and him starting to lose his sanity. And as we see in the second act, we'll get to it. But I mean, I'll let you guys go if there's one more you want to talk about on it. But on this first act, there's not really much there. There's no meat to the bone. It's just a man searching for his posse or whatever, and he investigates. What do you guys have? You have anything?
Searching for my posse.
It's pussy posse.
I mean, well, from a goofy standpoint, the first thing I wrote down was this guy looks combuberated.
Exactly.
Discombobulated, yeah.
Discomboberated. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and I guess I don't know. I kind of tried to put myself in his shoes. I guess I liked that he was trying to be rational when he was talking through stuff. Like you see him like there is an answer to this situation. There's something going on. I'm alone for some reason. The crew is someplace for some reason, but there's a reason for what's going on. Like you do see his sanity kind of go away over the course of time. And I have great respect for this guy because it is essentially a one man show for this first bit. I mean, trying to maintain all that stuff. I have great respect for him trying to do that. And the fact that he's like, you guys are my responsibility. Where are you? I need to take care of you. I need, all that stuff. So I guess I looked at it from that respect.
Well, I'm not saying the performance isn't bad. It just, I guess when you, I've always said, no, but I've always said when you introduce a season or series, you had to come out with a bang. You look at Lost or Fringe or The Simpsons or any of these shows. I mean, you can name any billions of shows, and the first episode always has to have a big impact. And I don't feel like there's any impact here. I feel like it's a very basic episode that maybe was a holdover from the first season. And I mean, Jacob, what do you think? I mean, do you agree, or how do you feel about it? Because like I said, I don't really have much to say on the first act. There's not much there outside like what you were saying, Trev, and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to disparage this episode. I'm just saying there's not much to talk about on it.
Understood.
So
One other real quick thing before Jake jumps in. Okay, so we look at like modern shows and you start with a bang. Was that the case in the 60s? I really don't know.
An anthology series too, so
yeah.
You're not going to have cliffhangers or anything like that, or start new story arcs with the anthology.
I mean, that's true. You're absolutely right. I think they could have done what I honestly think they should have done is taken another episode, thrown in the beginning to give us something out of the gate. But that's just me personally. That's the way I look at it. But
I think it's a fair way you're looking at it. I genuinely don't know, like looking at it from the 60s perspective, like if they went out the gate with a bang, or if it's like, oh, well, last season, Lucy, tried to eat a bunch of, brownies. And this time she's going to try and, fall over in a wine vat or something like that. So.
Well, in what do we got? Act 1, I noticed the guy's voiceover, because most of the dialogue is through voiceover, except when he's shouting people's names. And I couldn't help but notice that it sounded like Jimmy Stewart Light was doing the voiceover. That's just, a takeaway there. But beyond that, was the whole Blake thing, that was in Act 1, right? Was that in Act 2?
He saw Blake at the very end of So he sees Blake in the cockpit at the end of Act 1. He disappears, and he's like, where did he go? Okay,
yeah. That, now, I mean, leading up to that, I was intrigued. I was like, okay, what's going on? What's going to happen here? As far as just Act 1 goes, I was interested. I was wondering, all right, what's the twist? What's going to happen? It set itself up as, okay, this is going to be a twist Twilight Zone episode. It's not going to be one of those episodes that doesn't have that twist, and we get there. But just, you can always tell when you're watching the Twilight Zone and one of these episodes comes on and you don't know what's going on, you're all discombobulated. You're like, yeah, this is going to be a twist episode. Okay, I'm looking forward to the twist. What's it going to be? Let me look here. Let me look there. What? Let me figure out what's going on here. And he sees the jets. I don't know. That may have been the later on. But I got to say, the Blake scene when he looks over and it zooms and he sees the guy sitting there all like doing that. For me, personally, I know I just looked over at the screen as I was watching that. That shit was creepy as fuck. He's sitting there like doing his little like crazy look, and it had that like music and everything. I was like, okay, that's unnerving. That's creepy as hell. For me, I mean, it had a little tinge of horror for myself. I mean, I wasn't scared or nothing like that, but it was creepy. I will say that much. So yeah, the first act, regardless of where it goes, I was intrigued and I was interested in wondering what the hell is going on here. Is he dead and everybody else is alive? What's happening? And I did like how, on that note, this may have been the next act, but just to throw it in based on what I said a second ago, I like how he actually goes through a lot of those possibilities in his head that we are, because we're like, okay, we know Twilight Zone. We've got one season on the books. We know what's up here. What's going on? Is he dead? Is he asleep? Is he here? And he goes through all that, and you're like, oh, okay. If he's saying it, that's not what it is. So you think. But yeah, that's my take on Act 1, Episode 1, Season 2. I was cool with it up to that point. I was up to the middle half.
It's not the worst thing in the world, but I think my personal opinion is, as we move down through the second season, we're gonna find that the King 9 will not return. Will be kind of just like a bland episode. To be fairly honest, that's how we're gonna
I
end
was
up looking
thinking
at it.
number
Because
one, but okay, whatever you say.
number one.
No,
It's
and
no
once
longer.
again,
It's no longer the invaders. It's
we are only talking about Act
Yeah.
1. Think about that.
Yeah.
Put yourself there for a minute. Take everything that you know happening after Act 1 out of your head for a second, or go back and say, okay, what if Act 2 had just like this amazing ending to it? Would your opinion, like Act 1, just up to that point, you don't know what's going on. This guy's out in the desert. He's been yelling, and like you said, it is fairly short, so it's not like they spend a lot of time doing that. It's just kind of like they've set up the stage. We don't know where it's going as of yet, but as of this moment, I'm cool with it.
right. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, it's just my personal opinion, but I definitely understand where you guys are coming from. When the thing about insanity going insane is this does happen. You start talking to yourself, and things start happening. You start seeing things,
Shit.
and
I talk about that all the time.
It's more if you don't
Well, I
answer
mean-
yourself.
I do that too.
Damn it.
But we all being I know Jacob probably knows this as well, but being from or living down in Florida and Miami for a long time, the heat will do things to you both mentally and physically. And when you have no
Mhm.
water, which as you're aware, it causes you to it doesn't go well. We'll just put it that way. I have
your pee
been
stick, too.
yeah, exactly. It turns certain shades of green, I think. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, I've hallucinated in a cornfield, so I get it.
Did you see children?
Tripping balls on acid when you're a teenager doesn't count here, Triv.
But that was in a cornfield, so it still counts.
Okay.
Were you
I
on a
saw
road
He
trip
Who
with Sarah
Walks-
Connor?
No, but I saw He Who Walks Behind the Rose.
What did he who walks behind him Rose do with the corn while you guys were in that field? That's the question.
He was sitting there detasseling with me, so.
This is an answer. This is an answer that can only be answered on Cornhub.
Is that why there's a thing called sweet corn now?
No, that's a totally different thing.
Subscribe to Triv's OnlyFans channel.
Sweet corn, the Corn Hub channel.
Oh yeah, licked
But
it just for you.
oh Jesus.
Better than butter.
Big baby sweet back sweet corn.
The funny thing about that is when he's on the stack, he attempts to call sign Firefly, and all I could think was, where's Malcolm Reynolds at? And yeah, damn Firefly. It's 13
If
episodes.
anybody else gets that joke,
Yeah.
that reference.
we are here for the vague references, people.
If you're a
that's
real
right.
Firefly fan. Shit, say that 3 times fast.
Firefly fan, Firefly fan, Firefly fan.
Shut the fuck
Shut
up.
up.
Shut the fuck up, Firefly fan. God damn it. Shut the fuck up, Firefly.
This is when you know we've tickled that pickle for people.
Yeah.
You can tickle your own pickle. I'm not going anywhere near that shit.
Who's to say I'm not? You can't see my hands or my lower section.
That is true. You can't see
Tickle,
my
tickle,
hands
tickle,
either.
tickle.
Say that 10 times
Yeah.
fast.
As you can tell, we have nothing to talk about with this episode.
Oh, for fuck's sake, we do. It's just you all keep tangenting. Okay, I got another thing to talk about. There's another lexicon word in this first half, and I really enjoyed it. He said everything looks tilt, but there's a rational explanation for it.
I don't think everything didn't look like a Dutch angle. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, tilt is in like when
I
a
know.
pinball
Sideways?
machine goes tilt. Like it basically finishes it out. Stick that in your pipe and
I'll have
smoke it.
You stupid frog cowboy.
Shoulders like pudding.
Sounds like some shit Gollum would say. You stupid frog cowboy.
No, was there another lexicon word you were talking about, Trev? You
I
said there was
have
two.
three of them actually.
You have 3. Holy
Yeah.
shit! I must have missed like the other 2.
Well,
Are they in
and I
the second act or?
yeah, they're in the second act.
Oh, okay.
Some of them may not be like lexicon per se. I just thought that they were sort of in that realm. So I'll let you
Mhm.
guys decide.
Do you think Rod Serling, when he was writing these lexicons, he's like, you know what? One day this podcast called The Fifth Dimension will come up, and there'll be this guy named Jacob who's on the podcast, and he's like, that guy will make this a legend for me. And he will be like my shoulders of pudding type of
That is
guy.
absolutely what he was thinking all along.
Yes.
Well, and had he still been here, he would have taken that story that you read through last week with the guy and the potato and made that his greatest masterpiece. It would have been his magnum
Yes.
opus.
I don't know if it lived up to my original rendition of it, which I don't even remember what that was. I just remember it being a little better. But you know what? I'll take Mr. Potato Head goes to wherever I took him.
Goes to Spanktown.
Yeah. Is that where we went? I don't know. That was literally words coming out of my mouth.
So, anyways, yeah, I like I said, I'm not the hugest fan of this episode, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. It's not offensive. It's just bland to me. That's all. That's just all. Especially the first. Like I was falling asleep, but maybe I am still reeling from the editing of the last episode. I don't know.
So we're gonna have this in like number 7, right?
Oh God.
Putting it.
I've started a let's get the hell for Chance to Dream out of top 10 segment, haven't I? That's Jacob's whole ambition for this season. Just get everything in the top 10 to get for Chance to Dream out of it.
I'm okay with
Will
that.
happen. For Chance to Dream will be out of the top 10.
Well, I'd hope so. It's at number 10 if it doesn't drop out of the top 10. Considering some of the episodes that are upcoming, we were not doing our jobs.
Oh no, yeah. Jacob is going to have his wish by the end of like episode 8, so no worries.
Maybe
Maybe.
I mean, we could put this at number 7 and they would get it out of it by episode 1 of season 2.
See, Triv is selling this shit.
Yeah.
If we're gonna go full ham on this, we might as well just put it at number 9. King 9.
We could put it at number 10 and that would drop per chance out of the top 10.
I'm just gonna put it at 11 just to screw with everyone.
Why don't we talk about the second half of the episode?
That would probably be the way to go.
Put it.
Oh man. As you can
I mean,
tell,
I have
I'm
no
stalling.
notes for the second half of the episode, but still.
Really? I have a fair amount, like relatively speaking, I have a fair amount of notes. I don't know what that says.
Well, it's
You pay attention better than me.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, the thing about the second half is this is when James Embry starts to kind of really lose his shit. You know, my favorite line in this second act is he stares in the desert, talks to himself about being back in base, maybe a bar or someplace with a pretty girl, you know, that type of thing. It's just most of this is just him trying once again shouting into the ether, trying to find his friends, and it doesn't really start to really kind of change until he starts seeing like modern 60s planes in the sky. And I made a joke to myself. He says jets throughout most of this second half, and all I could think of was he must really love West Side Story because he keeps saying jets. But he like yeah but it just basically sees him for the most part until he runs up the hill and he hears noises, screaming like a madman and stuff like that, and then he finds Klein's gravesite and a helmet on the grave stone or whatever, and he kept hearing noises from that. But I mean, as this is playing out, as he's starting to like really kind of lose his sanity and stuff like that, I mean, what were you guys, I mean, was it proving to be worse? Was it proving to be better as like an episode? What do you guys think?
I would have to say, like, you see his level of responsibility because he keeps saying, I was supposed to take care of you guys, you know, you were under my command and all this stuff. So he's clearly dealing with some pretty hardcore guilt, whether he was on the plane or not. Like, he just like, it keeps coming back to that, you know, he must say it probably 4 or 5 times over the course of the entire episode. So there's, I don't know, you're clearly going towards something at the end that's going to relate back to that. The fact that he sees the jets and at first he's like, what is that? And then he's like, oh, those are jets. Like, he kind of slowly comes into the understanding that, oh, with everything, whether it was his name at the start and all this stuff dawns on him as he goes along. It kind of builds over the course of the episode. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat. Just like he gains things as he goes.
Yeah,
I still didn't have a problem with the episode. I thought that stuff was all cool. Once again, I'm not sitting here trying to say this is the greatest episode ever, but I was interested. I mean, yes, it is a lot of him running around the desert with voiceover and yelling and screaming. There's quite a bit of that, especially in the second act. But I did like how, you know, he went and he found the gravesite, so that makes you wonder, okay, what's totally going on here? He sees the jets, and then you start thinking, is this a time travel thing? Because then he starts. What I liked about this episode is kind of goes back to what I said a minute ago about we're trying to figure out in our head what's going on, and we're thinking of all the things that have happened in Twilight Zone before or in other mediums, like, oh, he's asleep or he's dead or he's whatever, and he starts going through that stuff. The same thing happened with the jets. He's like, what are those? Those are unlike planes I've ever seen. But wait, he's like, I know what that is. He throws a kink in it because right there, I'm like, okay, he's like traveled through time or he's been stuck here. But then he's like, no, I know what those jets are. That's a this, that's a that, that's a this. And I'm like, okay, well, he didn't time travel because he would just have that knowledge. So it did keep me on my toes wondering what was really going on. Now, granted, one of the things he suggests is more or less what's going on, like to a degree. And I thought that was a good way they tripped you up because you immediately think when he goes through the stuff in your head, okay, if he's saying it, that's obviously not what the twist is. So
Yeah,
I mean,
the,
I was still liking it.
Well, no, I was gonna say the episode's conclusion has a pretty finite reading on what exactly is happening, but as of this point, we're really just not entirely sure what's happening to him outside of, it feels like a Lawrence of Arabia or something like that, where he's like in the middle of the desert or something of that nature, where he's just kind of losing everything of about himself. And to be fairly honest, to kind of go more serious, I mean, if think about losing, like crash landing in a desert, you wake up there, you can't find your people anywhere, you don't know what's happening, you're in the middle of, like I said, desert, has no water except he finds a canteen from Klein, and then he finds the grave of Klein, and he keeps seeing his friends everywhere, and they're mirages or whatever. And it's like, it's actually kind of horrifying if you think about it. I mean, in all seriousness, it's like, if you had to put yourself in that place, and I mean, it ends up playing out extremely different what exactly is happening, but just in the moment, I mean, you're out in the desert and you're fucking, what the hell am I supposed to do? I can't. He tries to start the plane. He can't start the plane by himself, because it's a gigantic plane. He's talking about the wheels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crashed. It's
All the
Pieces
shit.
falling off.
Why he thought he'd be able to start that when like one of the wings is hanging off
Yeah.
of it.
Well, and one actually comes off at one point, like he's moving the piece up and down and just kind of like. Pfft.
Also, I do think, to add to what you're saying, Nick, and also what Triff said, I did like how it wasn't just this guy freaking out in the desert. His biggest concern was my crew. And I thought that was a good depiction of what being at least a good commander or captain or, in charge of something during those times, what that was. You weren't just, oh, I'm the boss. You actually, you carry a responsibility with you. And I thought that, and we know, we find out in the end, that's a tent, or a big part of this tent pole here. Yeah. But I like how they really rammed that home and showed that his biggest concern was not his well-being and all this and that. It was that where's my people? Where are they? They are my concern. They depend on me. I'm supposed to take care of them, and I fucked up somehow. I don't know how, but they're nowhere to be found, and I need to find them. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do say.
Good.
No, I was gonna say I started thinking that this episode was going into some similar to like Judgment Night, where he did something that caused all this, and he's just in a complete he's in his own hell, or what's that between heaven and hell? Purgatory. When he's in his own purgatory, he's reliving, or not reliving, but he doesn't realize that he caused the accident. But it's not where it goes. But that's what I kind of thought was going. So
it kind of is that. I mean,
yeah.
Not that specifically, but if you think about what will we find out what's actually going on, it is kind of like he's been stuck in a purgatory of his own mind. I mean, of himself. But you're getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, understood. I do have two other lexicon things, and the one is I think it's probably something that's pretty common, so this may or may not be a thing, but he talks about tying one on, as in like he's gonna go eat, I think.
Is that what that means?
Or a drink. Like I think I think so. I don't remember the actual context of it, but he says he's tied one on. And then the other one was when he was talking about his buddies, he was expecting them to spring out of the sand like jumping jacks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I completely went over that, or went over my head on that one.
That's okay. That's why I'm here.
I do like in this episode the way he starts cracking up and laughing and stuff like that, because it really feels authentic into losing your sanity, and the way he's laughing, and it makes no difference, as he says, because it's all an illusion. He thinks he's in dead or limbo. His crew is smiling back at him as he runs over the hill, and they disappear, and he like reaches out for him. Like, I don't know if thinks he can still see him, but he's like, they're not there anymore and stuff like that. And that's kind of before the twist happens. That's kind of where that segment ends. But like I said, it has interesting dialogue about just sanity and oneself when it comes to guilt and all that stuff, and that's what plays into the end, which I guess we can talk about. I mean, it basically similar to Where's Everybody, or to an extent Judgment Night. It brings us to the hospital from, I think, and when the sky was open, it looks very similar, especially in the hallway. But we see, I don't know if it was one doctor and another guy. I don't know if they were both doctors or whatever.
Psychiatrist.
Yeah,
Or
psychiatrist and
a
normal
medical
doctor. Yeah.
Okay. They're basically talking, and we see that James Embry is in essence comatose. I mean, for the time being, for the moment, he's like he falls in the sand, backwards in the sand. He's grabbing the sand, and then of course we see he's grabbing the sheets of his bed. But what I found really interesting was this guy, as we learn from the doctor and the psychiatrist, is he was supposed to go on King 9 and fly and bomb Italy in Naples or whatever he was supposed to do. And he didn't go, and someone went in his place. And for the last 17 years, so I guess that would make it modern day, 1943, however you want to look at
1960,
it. Yeah, 1960. He has had this guilt of not going over, because King 9, of course, as we learn, definitely crashed at some point. And he wakes up and stuff like that, and he talks about how it was a crazy dream, this wasn't a crazy dream, he was really there, stuff like that. And it's very similar in recounts of like the Wizard of Oz, but ends up being more realistic. But I found the idea of just like the guilt written consciousness and how that affects us, because the plane was eventually found and it was in the newspaper, and you can only imagine if you go something through that traumatic event, any traumatic event you've gone through in your life, if it's brought up, it can be very painful. And something like this, where he lost all his friends, I mean, it's actually a pretty potent ending. If you feel it's a very dark end. It's not really, it's dark in the sense that your thoughts can be really fucked up because of it, but it's a really interesting ending. I think it's the thing that I like the most about it is just how, even if it didn't have that twist at the end where they put his clothes down and sand comes out of the shoe, do you guys agree that it's a pretty interesting ending to a Twilight Zone episode? I guess. I mean, I don't know.
I kind of, you think about the era and all these guys coming back from World War II, and they were expected to kind of like, man up and settle down and do all this stuff, like that era of like stoic male. Yeah, exactly. You don't, and I guess it's a stereotypical thing, but you don't show emotion, you don't talk about it. I mean, how many of us had, how many stories do you hear about grandparents that didn't talk about that stuff because it was so terrible and so traumatic, and they had not a lot of outlets? And the fact that I don't know, I looked at this as, I mean, the therapist or the psychologist and the doctor even said, it's finally out. He's been carrying around this baggage for 17 years, and it's finally out. He can start the process of healing because he's finally talked about it. I don't know. That sense of, you can talk about it. It's important to get it out. You don't have to suffer alone. That whole message, I felt like hit pretty hard. And I'm assuming that Rod Serling probably talked about that from his own personal experience in war, or at least knew people that had gone through it and suffered by carrying all that with them. So.
That's where I was with it. I thought whenever we talk about, whenever there's an episode that talks about war, especially World War II, since Serling himself went there and he was in that war, I think that there's always probably a little bit more behind it. I think this was very much a showing how that war affected people long after the bomb stopped dropping, long after they were on the front lines, and how there were emotional scars, which, like Tripp said, I think people knew there were emotional scars, but that was the first modern big war where people came home and we started to see that they were scarred for life by the events that happened over there. I mean, these events are a little bit different, but still it's the same thing. And, he's carrying around this baggage, this guilt for something that wasn't his fault, but still this guilt because he was a good commander. He cared about what happened to those people. And the one he didn't go on is the one where they crashed and disappeared. And I thought that was cool. I appreciate how it was trying in true Twilight Zone form to deal with things that probably weren't dealt with normally in that time period. But admittedly, while I didn't hate this episode, the end was the weakest part for me. Even with the sand in the shoe, because like Nick said, after all that, and they're like, oh, he just had this baggage, that's all it is. And you think the twist is, oh, he's sleeping or knocked out or in a coma, whatever, in this hospital because he passed out after seeing that, oh, they found my bomber and the people on it, the remains. His shoe gets knocked over and there's sand in it. And they're like, what's this? Oh, it's sand. So, of course, there's like this, I guess, supernatural aspect added to it. But beyond that, even with that, the end did not hit as hard as I was hoping it would. I liked the setup. I didn't mind the episode. I liked how it was demonstrating these stuff. And I liked the message it had. How it was saying, hey, people are really scarred by this stuff for life. But the end was just kind of limp to me,
Reminds me of
especially
the last flight.
well, yeah, that's how I'm also. This is where I'm going to agree with Nick on this episode to a degree. As far as a first episode, while being an anthology series, you don't have like previously on and
Mhm.
the big cliffhanger from last season, and now you get payoff to it or whatever. You don't have all that. I still would have figured that for your first episode for the season, you would have come out the gate swinging a little bit more. Not that this is a bad episode, but I guess going in being the first episode of season 2, I was expecting something with a little bit more bite and a little bit more punch.
That's fair.
And if this was episode 8, I'd probably just be like, yeah, it was fine. And I wouldn't have had that. It would have been just that. I would have thought the same stuff, but I wouldn't have had that expectation for it to be a little bit something extra. Like the first episode and last episode, for whatever reason, we expect to come in swinging and go out with a bang.
Mhm.
And if they don't quite do that, it's like, I just feel like you missed an opportunity there. But I mean, and I got to say, a lot of that for me is attributed to the end. While like I said, I do like what they're trying to say, and they're trying to talk about things that weren't talked about. It's still the execution was just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool, but it's not great. That's just cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like the ending. I like it better than the actual episode. It just, when it comes to like traumatic PTSD stuff like that, I of course, I'm sure every person, including you guys, has maybe I'm wrong in that, has had a family member in war and stuff like that. And I think the idea of PTSD, it makes sense. You look at the Purple Testament, it's a perfect example of like what war can do to someone.
Yeah.
And I never felt it here. I understand. Like I said, I like the ending, but I think the lead up to the ending just felt so banal and dry and just no life to it. It just felt like here's a guy that's losing his sanity in the desert. And me personally, and we won't put it this far down, but I think whereas everybody does a much better job of showing what it's like for a guy stuck in the middle of somewhere there's no life at all. And I mean, I think it's a weird episode. It doesn't distract or doesn't discount the Twilight Zone, but I think it's just maybe it's a leftover from a first season where they couldn't find a place to put it, and they're like, you know what, we'll just stick it in the first episode and then we'll move on to the second season and there'll be much better episodes that we'll work on. I mean, not saying that's what happened, but that's my thought. And this is what I feel like with a lot of TV shows and stuff like that, especially, like big TV shows, is like maybe our first episode of our second season or third season won't be great, but we'll find a way to get past it and move on. And I think that as we learn from the second season and we move forward, I think that's what happens. And I think this is just, it's a middle of the road tier episode that has an interesting message, but doesn't have a lot going for it, to be fairly honest, which it doesn't make it a terrible episode. It's still the Twilight Zone. It's still much better than a lot of episodes. I just think when you look at the big scheme, bigger picture of the Twilight Zone and its, anthology series, I think there's much better stuff to look forward to than what we got here. So that's
It's
just
an
my
odd
opinion.
pick. It's an odd pick
Yeah.
for your first
Yeah.
episode.
No, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Of your first season after you've been picked up.
Mhm.
This show came out season 1, and I'm sure there were plenty of people who were like, the what? This isn't going to work. But then it was just like a runaway hit. So now it's like, okay, all eyes are on us now, guys. Come out, everything. Season 1, they were all filmed, scheduled, and it was probably picking up steam then. Season 2, you're making these and you know that the show is a success. So let's continue that success. Episode 1, let's come out swinging with this. Which, I mean, yeah, had good stuff to say, but just execution was just not as, it wasn't bam, hell, it wasn't memorable Twilight Zone, top tier. It was just kind of, it's fine, middle of the road Twilight Zone, which for your first episode, I don't know. That's what bothered me the most, honestly. I was expecting more out of the first episode. It just didn't have that special oomph that the best Twilight Zone episodes do.
That's true. It does. I guess I agree with what you guys are saying, and I think the ending, the way that they did it kind of caught me off guard, because I was expecting like you said, he did something stupid or he made the wrong decision or whatever, and the fact that he wasn't on there and he has this tremendous burden of guilt, like the ending hit me in that way. No, it's definitely not top tier. The ending for me, the ending fit with what came, but yeah, it's definitely, if we look at it from a modern perspective, or even maybe then, like I say, I can't say like how a season opener would work back in 1960 or 1960. But yeah, no, it definitely, from a modern perspective, or even looking back, the logic should be lead with something strong, and this would not be necessarily the strongest lead by any stretch. So,
and you're right there. I mean, I have no idea in the 60s how would a show was it common to come out swinging, or was it common to just come out with regular? I don't know. I know nowadays it's try and come out swinging regardless if it's good or not, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe in the 60s it was normal just to have, maybe people weren't expecting like a big bang. It was just the show as well. I would think, whenever you're going to do something, you want to put best foot forward first, but that's today's mentality, I suppose.
Well, and I know that sweeps were always a thing, like, back in the 80s and stuff, you'd always hear, oh, it's, sweeps were always September or whatever. Exactly. But, that was the 80s. That wasn't the 60s, and especially 1960. So
in the end, once again, like I said, we'll get down the road and we'll actually be talking about Twilight Zone, and then halfway through the season, and we'll be like, somebody will bring up this episode. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot this was part of the second season. It's the same thing. It happened with Where's Everybody? We completely forgot about it, and like halfway through the season, we're like, was that in the first season? Was that? And we were, that type of thing. So.
I agree. This does have a lot in common with Where's Everybody, especially tonally. I think the messages are different, but it has a lot in common with it. But the scenes when the stuff is happening, or what's happening is happening, I thought in this were better done. I was more entertained with them here than what was happening. What was happening was just like, wherever you're running to, just fucking get there.
And even that, you think about, that was their pilot, and regarded they're still figuring formula at that point. I'm sure for that it was probably something really unique for what it was. But yeah, it was, in retrospect, probably a solid pilot, but not much beyond that.
So with that said, I think that was, like I said, we end up having a good discussion on this episode. Probably not about the most deep conversation, but it was definitely a good conversation, to say the least. Jacob, let's head out with the ending narration, closing narration, whatever it's called.
The ending narration.
Yeah, prologue.
We'll go with that.
Enigma buried in the sand. A question mark with broken wings that lies in silent grace as a marker in a desert shrine. Odd how the real consorts with the shadows, how the present fuses with the past. How does it happen? The question is on file in the silent desert. And the answer is waiting for us in the Twilight Zone, because anal.
So like adding in bed to a fortune cookie, like whatever your fortune is, you add in bed to it.
Yeah. I do. I wanted to say something I did really like about this episode, and maybe that's because I read it in the opening, his opening monologue. I'd commend Rod Serling's not perfect. He's wrote some episodes that are just kind of like, but his words in this sentence right here, war spits out its violence overhead and the sandy graveyard swallows it up. I love that. I love that. That's just like, it could have just been like planes fighting overhead and this plane crashed down on the desert. But no, he takes that kind of, like any good writer, he takes a normal thing that we would see and just puts words to it that are just so descriptive and just makes it sound sexy. I love it.
I was reading next week's opening narration, and sexy is definitely what he likes to write. So
And he's got that voice to be able to do it too. I mean, so do you, Jacob, but
there's actually no person that sounds like Rod Serling. And there's
Agreed.
guys that try to mimic him, but he has his own cadence and is quite impressive. Like how it's just like there's something soothing but menacing about how he talks, which I always like. So
can you imagine like him like talking to his kids like, and child of mine, you didn't tie your shoes.
when you
You
step
know,
into the
you shouldn't have talked back to your mother, but now that you did, you have to. And I'm sure he used like big, huge words, shit like that, and like twisted the words around, and it was like a work of art. Probably not. In real life, he was like, "God damn it! I told you to stop fucking talking back. Get your little ass in bed, little bastard."
You think he's like, you little bastard, you shoulders like pudding, you fucking discombobulated assholes, you know, that type of thing.
Jump out
Absolutely.
of your bed like jumping jacks.
Yeah,
Frog
Frog
cowboys.
cowboy. That sounds like something
Ah.
you say like in like some old that is something someone's grandpa says, like, "Oh, look at you," with like when they got their grandkids, "You little frog cowboy," some shit that they spit out that you're just like everybody laughs about and nobody really pays any attention, but when they get to think about it, they're like, what the fuck does that mean?
All right. So with that said, that'll be our discussion of King 9 Will Not Return. Like I said, it's the first episode of the second season. And we'll head into the last segment of our podcast, which is the Twilight Zone list, the rankings of our feelings on the episodes. This list is perfect. Will never be representative of any other list because all lists suck, excluding ours. So anyways, I will call this out. I will put this between 24 and 36, somewhere around there. And I'm not saying put it at the end. I'm just saying in that general direction.
Oh,
vicinity.
good disclaimer there.
The question, I mean, I think what we have to ask ourselves is it better than People Are Alike All Over?
Where is that one?
Number 9.
Or is it number
Oh,
I see what you're doing there.
I think it should go at number 11 myself.
Wait, hold on. I gotta press the stop recording real quick. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Alex, if you're listening, can we have you in as co-host? We've just lost somebody.
Damn.
No.
Okay, I'll leave.
Oh, geez.
Go. I can't go.
Okay, so what's our starting point? Seriously,
I
24.
honestly, yeah, 20. That's my opinion. If you want to put it higher, let me know. But 24 seemed like between 24 and like I don't know, 29, somewhere around there, maybe. That's just where I feel.
Well, who compared it to The Last Flight? Jake, was that you?
which
That
one
was
was
me.
the last flight?
24.
That was
Oh,
That's the one where the
who
guy
came-
goes back in time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Old lead bottom.
Yeah.
I like that one better than this one, honestly. So I would, in total sincerity, I would put that one above this. So I guess then you have "And When the Sky Was Open." Well, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it.
What about your favorite man having sex with robot episode?
The Lonely.
Yeah. I think the Lonely's better
Yeah,
episode. That's just my opinion.
I would have to say The Lonely offers a little bit more. I mean, Lonely offers up has a lot of plot holes and a lot of questions, not plot holes. There's a lot of like, I got questions. You know, there's a big chunk of time. But when all is said and done, I did enjoy that episode more.
There's quite a gap for me between The Lonely and Big Tall Wish.
I was just about to say, I think the Big Tall Wish is a good starting point for me because that would take some thought for me to figure out if I liked this one more or that one more.
Yeah. And honestly, I'd put it either above or below Big Tall Wish if we're gonna go in that general area. Because
I'm sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Oh, I was just gonna say I do think that this one offers a lot of good stuff, but yeah, I mean, you know, you guys make compelling arguments and such, and yeah, I'd say around like 27.
For me, I liked this one a little bit more than Big Tall Wish because the one thing this one did good for me that Big Tall Wish didn't is it did seem like it moved quick. It didn't seem like 24 minutes. I mean, it moved fairly quickly. I can't remember the exact runtime. Big Tall Wish just seemed long. I mean, it had its ups and downs, but I enjoyed this one a little bit more than Big Tall Wish.
I mean, yeah, it's The only thing I could think of is maybe this would be lesser than Mr. Denton on Doomsday, but I don't know. It's weird, like the lower part. I do like Mr. Denton on Doomsday, but I don't know. It's that big tall wish and I shot in the air. I shot an arrow into the air just for the simple fact that they're in Reno, Nevada, but it still is just a goofy episode where a guy kills everyone. And Big Tall Wish, like I said, is an episode with a lot of interesting ideas, but I don't think it's all that special. To be fairly
Big Tall
honest.
Wish had more going on in the background
Mhm.
Yeah.
and the not the episode itself, but what's behind the episode. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess, sitting here looking at the episodes right now, I think maybe that may have influenced our ranking of that particular episode, mine at least.
Oh,
Because
same.
I agree. I think I shot an arrow into the air was more entertaining than Big Tall Wish. So we've got like a perchance to dream situation going on here, where there's an episode that's better than it under, or in my opinion, under it. So it's like, not only does it have to be better than that episode, but it's got to be better than the episode under it too.
It's a conundrum.
Wait till we get to episode 155 and we realize what the hell is wrong with us. Like
Perchance to dream is still in the top 10.
exactly.
I kind of want to work to keep it in the top 10 now, just to screw with Jake.
See, I'm gonna be on Jake's side on that one because like
I'm
we
kidding.
have like
I'm
the Howling
kidding.
Man coming.
I'm
We have like
kidding.
the Howling Man coming up, and like Nick of Time and stuff like that. And yeah, Perchance to Dream number 10 sounds good to me. We'll find a way to make new numbers like 9.77777 and 8.2 and stuff like that. So but anyways, going back to King 9 will not return. Do you think number 27 sounds good above Big Tall Wish right below The Lonely?
I mean, anywhere in there is kind of my thought, between like 20, above or below, whatever you guys think in that respect.
I'm good with that. I mean, but I'm open to talking about it. But if you guys are cool with 27, I'm cool with it.
I mean, like I say, it's got some good stuff. It's got some bad stuff. In the grand scheme, we're gonna remember. It's gonna be kind of not a footnote, but sort of a footnote.
Yeah, I think when you start getting down this like far down the list, you actually start forgetting things about the episodes.
Well, I can't forget Long Live Walter Jameson. That one was kind of
I know you told us that was your favorite episode, so
Yeah, well, Jake also said that Perchance Dream was his.
this is true.
And I can't
And
remember
he
which
likes
one.
he likes it so much he wants it out of the top 10.
Yeah, he wants it above the top 10.
Yeah.
No, I wanted a below the top 10 so that people.
You want to
will
below
go
the
into
top
this-
10?
I want to below the top 10 as well. But that aside, I want it out of the top 10 so that people will come in with low expectations and then find out that it's such a fantastic episode about cat
Right.
women,
And roller coasters.
roller
And
coasters,
jumping
and
out of windows.
window base jumping.
And where you land more than 2 feet down.
All right. Well, unfortunately for the time being, Perchance to Dream will stay at number 10. But with that said, new number 27 is King 9 Will Not Return. The Fever is now at number 37. And I shot Arrow to the air when it moved on to the next list. Monster to Do on Maple Street is still number 1. And next week, we will hopefully, quote unquote, hopefully, if we can work everything out, have a special guest on that we have not had on before. Looking forward to that. He's really cool, really interesting to talk about when it comes to the Twilight Zone. He picked this episode to talk about, so that's cool. We'll look forward to that. And the episode is season 2, episode 2, The Man in the Bottle, which is a playoff of the Genie in the Bottle segment. Stars Luther Adler as because they're spoiling the guest appearance apparently. We'll just call him Arthur Castle for the time being. And Joseph Ruskin, who is a pretty famous actor who's going to play the Genie, and directed by Don Medford. So we'll look forward to that. So with that said, that's our take on King 9 Will Not Return, the first episode of the second season. And Jacob, you and your what looks like 6 stormtroopers who can't aim at anything, where can they aim and shoot your 9?
Wow.
King 9. The guy has 9 stormtroopers. But where can they find your content if they want to reach out and touch your 9 stormtroopers?
You can reach out and touch me at Jacob Anders Reviews on YouTube. And at Red Neville too on Twitter. But touch me on YouTube first, please. Touch that subscribe button, caress it. push it slowly. It's 1 inch in and up, and just push it and let it blow all of its awesomeness all over you. It's warm and you'll love it. All of it. And perchance to dream you're out this motherfucker in at least 14 weeks, bitch.
Yeah, man, so close. We're so close. We're only like 6 months away, so don't worry, Jacob. We'll get there eventually.
Jesus.
Do you need? I feel like I need a cigarette after that.
Yeah, man. And Triv,
Wow.
your Corn Hub channel, where can they find it if they want to reach out and touch your corn in the field
Hub.
with the children?
Well, if you're looking for a kernel of pleasure,
Ooh.
you can catch my channel After Dark here on YouTube at Trivial Theater. I do lots of naughty reviews of various types.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Keep on.
Oh,
Keep
God.
on.
You can also find me on Twitter at Trivial Theater. I just put out a non-sexual,
She put out.
yeah,
Literally and figuratively.
yes. I just put out Looney Tunes Back in Action, and not a sexy review by any stretch.
Action.
Yeah, there was a huge debate on rabbit season versus duck season, so tune in for that because it's stimulating.
Ooh.
Up next is Leprechaun Back in the Hood. So
I
hopefully
am
that'll
the
be out.
Leprechaun.
That
That's-
just
that's-
killed everything.
Yeah. That's my best Wayne's World impression.
That's great. Proud of you.
And the leprechaun.
And if you want to go to the basement to get a good blowjob, Nick, where can they find you?
I am not amused.
Damn.
I'm just going by what my mom said. So, God.
Well, me and my bottle.
Your mom
of-
said Nick's in the basement giving blowjob. Hey, wait a minute. I'm in the basement right now.
Well, the next episode is Nervous Man in a $4 room. So it is the story of my going down in the basement getting blowjobs type of thing. So,
You know, smoke if you got them.
exactly.
You'll
Smoke in a bottle.
be jumping out of the sand like jumping jacks.
Exactly.
You dirty
So
frog
anyway.
cowboy.
Shit. See, this is how you do a podcast. So,
I hope so.
anyways, exactly. So, anyways, you can find me at Movie Emporium. All my content is there, including this video. As you're aware, when this video posts, I did do a Jurassic World Dominion review. It was very fun. I enjoyed it. With that said, I have other
Yay.
content coming out. Look forward to that. I think I did some other videos. I think something else came out. I don't remember. It's late. But anyways, find my content there. I didn't say in the beginning, but if you want to listen to us on audio feeds, we're on Anchor and Google Play and Amazon Music and Corn Hub and iTunes. Give us ratings, stars, views, all that good stuff. But what's that?
Kernels. I think that's what they call them. Corn hub.
Yeah, kernels. Give us kernels of love. Anyways, with that said, we're gonna head out, and for myself, Triv, and Jacob, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out.
Peace, love, chicken grease.
Crotchies.
Peace. What's going on, everybody? I'm Nick as always.
Nikki Anal or Triv Anal Raccoons.
Nikki Anal.
Oh God. Oh, fuck.
Change your
You do realize it's going at the end, right?
your channel. Your channel needs to be changed that now.
Nikki Anal.
Nikki Anal. At
That's
the
my
movies.
OnlyFans.
Nikki Anal. Oh my gosh. Nikki
No,
Anal at the movies.
I could call my podcast. Welcome, guys, to Anal Chat,
Anal chat. Yes.
where we give you topics one beat at a time.
Oh yeah.
6 weeks in the rear.
One thrust.